Hi there, I'm Java Jim with First Line Equipment, and today we're going to go over potential reasons why you don't get Crema. Okay, we sometimes get this call coming in, sometimes we get an email coming in, oh, this machine is horrible, doesn't make Crema, or it doesn't taste good. Okay, so just to go over a few things here, and we're going to demonstrate on how to achieve Crema, because sometimes customers think you could just pull a machine out of the box and it automatically makes Crema. Yes, that is true if you buy a machine in the mass market that has a basket or a portafilter that has a pressurization system in the portafilter or in the basket. Some examples would be, and we don't sell these, but DeLonghi, possibly Breville. There's also Krups. And no matter what grind or whatever you do, it still makes Crema. So people say, well, then why should I buy other machines? Well, the problem with the pressurization systems is if you go change the grind to try to extract the superior flavor in the cup, it's very hard to do. And what ends up happening, people buy the baskets or the portafilters without the pressurization system because they want something better, which then leads us to the equipment that most of the equipment that First Line sells. We do have some equipment that uses pressurization systems, or customers who have difficulty will sell pressurization baskets because it comes down to the grinder. Now, here in front of us we have an Elektra Semiautomatica. It is a vibration pump. It's not a rotary vane pump. Rotary vane pumps typically pump at 9 bar of constant pressure. They ramp up very fast. Vibration pumps take up to about 9 seconds to get up to pressure. And while it's doing that, it's actually almost pre-infusing the espresso grinds. So this has a vibration pump. This is a heat exchange machine. We're using this for demonstration purposes. Under a machine with a rotary vane pump, it's going to be a little bit different. All the stuff here is not necessarily included with the purchase of the machine. We have a knock box here. We have a 58 millimeter portafilter. We have 2 shot glasses, a useless scoop, but also useful scoop. We have here a 1 cup basket. I prefer never to use this 1 cup basket. And the reason is the grind fineness for a 1 cup is typically different than the grind fineness for a 2 cup. And I'm also in the school, okay, there are different schools of thought of more coffee, superior flavor profile. Now there's people on the internet who will say differently. I respect those schools of thought. Also, what I'm showing you is also my school of thought from 27 plus years of experience doing this, and also learning from my dad, who had over 40 years of experience, old school, repairing machines, fixing machines, and working on machines and selling machines. So there's a lot of history here. And again, my school of thought, people will differ. And if something works better for you, all the power to you. If that's what gives you a better cup, doesn't mean it's going to be for everyone else. Doesn't mean what I say is going to be for everyone else. But I'm going to kind of give you the don'ts on this video and going over some of these things. Tamping station. Why is a tamping station important? Because if the portafilter is not level when you go tamp, okay, and this portafilter has a nice angle where it's level, but a lot of portafilters will be like this or like this, depending on the angle of the handle. You want a tamper that's going to fit. This machine doesn't necessarily come with the wooden tamper that's 58 millimeter. It's usually a little smaller, 56.5. Why? I'm not sure. As I said in previous videos over the last 20 years, there may be a conspiracy with these plastic tamper companies. I don't know. But not every machine will have a very good tamper that's going to fit to the basket. I also like the tamping station. A lot of times the bottomless will not work on tamping stations. It all depends. As an attorney in court of law will always say in the courtroom, you attorneys know, it depends. So we have that. We have a cleaning brush. We have the Crema grinder. I've been testing this for the past probably 6 months, 7 months. This thing is working wonders. And we're going to demonstrate, so like I said, the errors that occur when you don't get crema. And if you do get crema and bad taste, then it could be the coffee, or you do need to change the grind fineness. And then also there's machines with flow control, which you could taste or change the taste and flavor profile. So back here we have a VBM dual boiler, dual profiler. This is where I was alluding to. You could change the flavor of the espresso coming out with the flow control device or the pump. We're not going to use this in this video. We're just going to strictly use this machine here, the Semiautomatica, copper and brass. We have back here an automatic tamper that you can adjust the pressure and the tamping pressure on the puck, which is what I consider in here. The puck is what goes in, the coffee, ground coffee goes into the filter basket. These are kind of pricey. They can range as little from annual ones $300 all the way up to I've seen $1,000. You don't necessarily need that, but it is available. This just came in for testing, and I'm very, very pleased with it. And then over here we have an Elektra grinder, which is the commercial grade grinder. They also make a smaller unit. So Elektra does make grinders. And now when it comes to grinding, why do you really want the bigger burrs? One, better grind fineness particles that are more consistent. So a whirly blade grinder goes wee, the whirly blade, that typically you have larger particles and smaller particles, and then when the pump pushes through, it's finding the channel or the path of least resistance, and then you get channeling. So you don't want the whirly blade grinders either. And then we have the Slingshot, which is also owned by it's a sister company basically, or an investment by Elektra Group. That is a superb grinder that grinds very, very fast. So that's an advantage of the bigger grinders, of grinding very fast. Now, the first thing that I like to go over that you're not going to be able to always achieve a crema, okay, is, okay, let me turn this grinder on here. I'm going to turn it off. Okay, I'm going to put some coffee right there. Okay, beans that are in here, typically, once you open the bag, and sometimes while in the bag, I prefer 5 days of rest after roast, up to 7 days. Resting means it's releasing the carbon dioxide, and then it's good up until day 21 outside of the bag or a sealed bag, out of sunlight. You put sunlight on it, you're ruining the beans. If you're using a machine with a built-in grinder and the machine is warming up, that heat is hitting the beans that are in your built-in grinder. That's why you don't really see those type of machines at first line, because you're actually cooking the beans before you're even grinding them. And you don't want to do that because it'll break down the oils. It'll basically dry up the beans, and you won't get good crema, I can assure you. So you don't want the ground coffee sitting in a bag for more than 7 minutes. So typically 7 days after the 5-day rest period is the optimal flavor of the beans. You have 7 minutes before this oxidizes. And when this oxidizes, you're not going to necessarily get good crema on the espresso machine. We already talked about the 1 cup basket, so that's going to be used as your paperweight for any notes that you have. Okay, we're gonna pull a shot here. So actually, let's backtrack. See this? I can hold the metal with my hand. If this metal is not heated or preheated when the machine is warming up, and a good warm up for most espresso machines is 20 to 30 minutes, dual boilers 45, even when the light or indicator says it's ready, it's not really always ready, okay? Because the sensors are here in the boiler, not necessarily on the group head, and it takes time for the water to flow back and forth or for the group head to get hot from a heating element on those dual boiler machines that have a third heating element. So 20 to 30 minutes is a good time, even for single boiler machines. 30 to 45, closer to 45 for dual boiler. So if this is not hot, guess what? No crema, okay? Coffee grinds that are older than 7 minutes, no crema, okay? So we're gonna wanna put this in here, okay? And you may see a machine that the portafilter inserts differently. Cups. If your cups are not warm or hot, that's also going to break down the crema when the espresso hits the cups. So typically what I like to do, okay, and no crema there, I like to keep the portafilter on the machine while it's heating up for 20 to 30 minutes. And again, schools of thought. Do you leave the old coffee grinds in there, or do you take them out and put in a clean basket portafilter in there? Two schools of thought. If you leave the grinds in there, it actually adds to the temperature stability of the group head because it absorbs the heat. The downside is the rancid oils, they get really rancid because of the heat, start going up the dispersion screen. So me personally, I like to keep the portafilter now in without any coffee and always use the dump box or whatever apparatus to get the grinds out. So in this case, I want to heat the cups up, and you're going to hear the vibration pump. It's a burring sound, brrr, okay? I'm going to run some water, keep those cups or shot glasses nice and hot. Okay. A good test. Can I keep my hand for 10 seconds on the portafilter metal? And just running that little water, guess what? I can't. You can clean your basket. Okay. I'm gonna grind some coffee here. So we're grinding. The grinder, I don't even know what it's set for. But using the 2-cup basket, I overfilled it. Okay, and what I like to do is a little tap. Okay, there are folks who talk about clumping, and you can use a WDT tool, which was developed many years ago, but if you have clumping. But if you look here, the coffee is higher. Said this is a useless scoop, but it actually can be useful. I normally use my finger, but sometimes customers like to dig in or go over. So what I like to do is take the XX coffee, and this is in the beginning, okay, and go straight across. Okay, very manual method. There are some people who use scales. The problem is I actually had a customer recently where I read the scale was off. So I don't like scales. Don't use the scoop to measure 2 scoopfuls, even if they're even, because typically that's not enough coffee. But if you do use the scoop, then the grind is going to have to be very, very fine because you're using only about 14 grams. Typically these are 7-gram scoops. So I don't like to use scoops. I like to get 20 to 22 grams in the basket. Can I get away with 18? Yes, grams. But I prefer to use this method because the same volume of coffee is always being used, and then the only thing that you have to adjust is going to be the grinder. Now we're going to get to tamping. I have my 2 fingers on the tamper on the top. Okay, so I dosed by volume. I will now tamp by volume. Okay, and I like to turn it. Okay, and what I like to do is get the 2 rims of the tamper down to the 2 rims of the basket. Now sometimes it'll be a little more difficult because the basket will be shallow and you may not be able to achieve that. Then I like to turn. I have been ridiculed online for hitting it and breaking the puck, but if you give it a little tamp on the side and a little polish, okay? And wipe the rim, because if you don't wipe the rim, you're gonna get leakage here eventually, and you're not gonna get enough pressure built up. And if you don't get enough pressure built up, no crema. Okay, so this portafilter has only been out for probably a minute or 2. I can keep my hand around it. So we've already lost some temperature. I'm gonna lock that in. Okay, make sure that it's locked in both sides. Let me get on this side here. Okay. Now, sometimes the portafilter will end here on a brand new machine. Sometimes here, sometimes it'll go a little more. It all depends on the machine and the break-in of the gaskets that were used. So if you get a machine that it ends here and not leaking here, you should be fine. If you have leaking, you need to put some force into it. Okay, I should already be making the espresso. We'll take this water out here. The cups are at least warm, the portafilter not so much. And put that there. Now my rule of thumb, again, other schools of thought may be different. I'm going to press the coffee button 2, 3, 4. Now if you look, the coffee's coming out fast. It came out in 3 seconds. Okay. Guess what? No crema. Okay? None. Very little. Not the machine's fault. This got cooler, and also the grind was too coarse coming out of the grinder. So what do? Okay, I'm gonna make a little bit of mess. Espresso is messy. If you don't like a mess, or you don't like messes, maybe sometimes don't get an espresso machine. Just go to the coffee shop, because coffee is messy. When you have a grinder, do not change the settings while it's off. You have 2 burrs, conical or this, flat, and what happens is if you go finer, all you're doing is bringing the burrs closer, the 2, one's spinning, actually usually the bottom one spins, the top one's locked, and you're compressing the ground coffee on the burr set, and when that happens, you can be at the 0 setting, or what they call the 0 point setting, and it will still be coarse. So I'm gonna put this on here, and I am going to change while it's running, okay? And I'm going finer. Okay, now there still may be a little residual. I'm gonna run a little bit more. I'm gonna take the portafilter off, okay? Now, there's an indentation there. Some customers will say, oh, I don't want the indentation. All right, then put a little less coffee, but go finer. The coffee will expand, and yes, water will flow, but as it pre-infuses, the coffee puck is gonna expand. You need to think of the coffee here, of the resistance that it creates. What creates the resistance? The grindness, or the fineness of the grind particle. The finer, the more resistance, the slower the water will flow through. The amount of coffee in the basket, which we're keeping equal, more coffee, more resistance. Slower the coffee will flow through. And then the tamping pressure, how much tamp. And we're keeping that consistent because we're trying to tamp by volume. So think of this as resistance to the pump pressure here. So let's grind some more. Now, I changed the grind settings finer, so less volume of coffee since this is timed and not grind by weight. Okay, and let me get a couple more beans in here. We'll grind a little more. Okay, a little bit more. And actually almost running out of beans here. But again, I'm gonna use the handle of the scoop to go across. And once all you have this set, the right grind, when you get your next batch of beans, guess what? You may be doing all this over again. And even the same coffee that you get in a week or 2 from now, if it's fresh versus 21 days, okay, so we have it level. I'm gonna get this as quickly as possible. This time I'm gonna use the tamping station. Get in here and locked. And this is a little hotter. Okay, went over there. Cups are cool. So now I'm gonna use cold cups. I know that'll break up the crema a little bit. Hit the button. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, still coming out a little fast. Okay, we got closer to my 5 to 7 seconds of where the espresso comes out. Okay, a lot of crema here. There's a Guinness effect here. Okay, I wouldn't even consider this perfect, but we do have crema. Okay, me personally, I would just go a tad finer on the grind to create a little more resistance in the puck. So I like to get closer to 7 seconds, and then the shot typically will be over between 23 and 27 seconds. Okay, so this is how you can achieve crema. Now, again, taste. And you typically want to consume that within the first 10 seconds because that's where the best flavor is. The oils that come from the coffee are in your crema. If I go a little finer, I probably get a little more chocolate flavor in the profile, which I prefer. So this one has a little bit more acidity. Let's check the puck. Okay. Ooh, now the portafilter is piping hot. Okay, and pretty even. Maybe a little bit of channeling there, very, very little. The grind quality is coming out really good. But now this is how you can get crema. I showed you what not to do, and I also showed you what to do to get crema. Okay, crema doesn't mean the best taste. I always ask some customers who have a lever machine with no spring action, and they're like, I get no crema on this. This machine is horrible. And I'm like, how's it taste? Oh, it tastes wonderful. Best espresso I've ever had. So you got to decide if the coffee tastes good or the espresso tastes good with no crema. Do you want that? Or do you want something with crema that doesn't taste as good? Again, crema usually has the flavor profile, usually has the oils, but I've actually had espresso with very little crema, very little, that tasted great. Okay, so at the end of the day, it really comes down to taste, but we want to try to get crema. I know this probably makes no sense. There's going to be people disagreeing. I already see it coming, but these are the core essentials of what not to do and what to do to get to the crema. Now, I did it in 2 shots. I have been on machines and grinders where I'll have to make almost 10 or 15 shots. Not a lot. The less experience you have making espresso, and even if you think you're a barista in a coffee shop, when you get down to other types of equipment, things change, okay? Unless you're using the same exact equipment, the same grinder, same coffee beans, things can change. Because I have customers say, hey, the coffee shop has this $25,000 machine, I want to produce the same thing at home. First thing I say is, it's going to be very difficult to achieve even spending $4,000. Might get you close, but it can be difficult to achieve. So just keep that in mind when you're also selecting equipment. But the key here is how to get crema. If you have any questions or comments, you can ask down below. I prefer you come to our website to ask because I monitor that. Use the contact us form and try to help you there for customers who purchased. And as they say always, coffee first and everything else second. Hopefully you like my shirt. Thank you and have a great day.